The cost of IT in business can be staggering. From hardware and software expenses to services like internet and phone, you don't need to spend a fortune on IT to succeed. If your organization spends more than $500 monthly on any service, or you're considering signing a long-term contract, IT Enabled can help you manage your technology and minimize your costs. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation. IT Enabled, we're here to help.
Hi, I'm Tara Watson-Watkins, President and CEO of the Lufkin Angelina County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Connect podcast, connecting business to the community. I'm here today with my co-host, Blake Pollino with BP Media Group.
Welcome back. So this month we are going to be sitting down with different community leaders from a lot of the cities within Angelina County. And we're super excited to have Mayor Mark Hicks and City Manager of Lufkin, Kevin Gee, on the podcast so they can tell us a little bit about what's happened in the last year in Lufkin and some really cool projects and things that are coming up in the future.
Well, we're glad to have both of you on to start off our 2023 podcast series. It's hard to believe this has been going on 2 years now.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, what better way to kick off January of 2023 than with visiting with our friends from the city of Lufkin. So thanks for being on here today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you talk about some of the biggest accomplishments that y'all had as a community this past year?
You want to kick us off, Kevin?
I would. We're going to get into hopefully a little bit about what the city is doing, some projects we've got going on, some things that are planned. And I think we have started several things, and we're hoping to get those kicked off in the construction phase this year. The city of Lufkin has been focused on being progressive for economic development. We've been as competitive as we can be to bring industries into Lufkin, to bring new businesses into Lufkin. It has been a focus of council and economic development and myself to try to position us where we can continue to grow Lufkin with generational jobs, things that we know make a lasting impact long after we're gone. So that's been a focus for the last year or so since I took over in the interim position, and getting other community-based projects going, looking at our parks, looking at the downtown area, looking at assessing different needs throughout town.
And how long have you been in your position?
So in February, it'll be a year since I was given interim status, and August would be a year since.
It seems so much longer than that. I guess because you were at the city.
Yes.
Being
there
longer than
before that. And just the COVID mental reset on time has been weird as far as remembering back exact time frames.
Yeah. And what was your role before? Kind of tell us your story and introduce yourself to the
I came to the city of Lufkin approximately 5 years ago as a city engineer. I've been a consultant engineer in Lufkin for 15 years prior to that, and had moved up into assistant city manager role while Bruce Green was here. And then with his retirement, took the interim role and then got to my position now. So
that's great. Well, we're glad to have you.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. So Mark, what was your biggest accomplishment?
I'd follow up with what Kevin just said by saying we have a lot of exciting things going on, many of which we're starting or we've already started, if you will. Of course, COVID slowed some things down, and then inflation hit, interest rates went up. So a lot of things we had slated, we refigured the cost on, and they had increased substantially. So we had to sort of back up and punt and, figure out a game plan for how to move forward, because a lot of these projects were out of budget and things like that. What I'm really excited about that I feel like we're really on the cusp of beginning is the improvements to Morris Frank Park. That's been needed for a long time, and we've got a great conceptual plan that's put together, and that's something we're going to take on, wouldn't you say, later this year?
Yeah, so we've finalizing the master plan for Morris Frank Park right now. Our consultant is working on getting that final approval, presenting that to council to get a clear direction going into detailed design. The anticipation is, by this summer, but we have a detailed design for that phase one, however that gets scoped. And then we have a discussion with council about funding sources, funding opportunities for that.
So can you tell us some things that you hope that will be coming as phase one?
Yeah, so it's an older park.
Yeah.
You've got aged facilities. We had the combination of the old LISD facilities with Garrison Field and the girls softball complex. It's not the most economical utilization of land space, so we completely revamped in the master plan the way it looks, trying to incorporate as much as possible as far as daytime use with some gathering areas, with the playground and parking nearby, and having a sports complex for softball, for soccer, for baseball, having a football field designated area, having adequate parking, lighting, walking paths. It's really the approach we've taken is that it's a blank slate that we can work with and set the vision for where we want to be and figure out that first phase to implement now.
That, it's so important for tourism as well.
Yes.
I mean, I remember years ago we would always bid on huge softball tournaments and baseball tournaments and things. So to know that the facility is truly getting an overhaul, it's going to open up a lot of opportunity to bring in a lot of people to stay in the hotels, which are great because we know grandparents always travel to see those baby girls play softball.
And some other things I'm excited about. We're getting ready to have a study done at the Kurth Animal Shelter to sort of look at how we operate there. A lot of these animal shelters that are run by cities or counties are moving to more of a sort of a rescue model, if you will. So we're trying to figure out, how do we run the best animal shelter we can or provide the best animal services we can in 2023 moving forward. So we've got a firm that's coming in that's done these in other cities in the state, done a real good job. So we're excited to see what that plan sort of predicates moving forward. Another thing that a lot of people take for granted, well, I say take for granted, of course, we saw how important our infrastructure is during the winter storm. So we've focused on that, and it's great that Kevin has an engineering background because it certainly helps in assessing what needs the city has. So some things that we have coming up, which most people wouldn't notice, but infrastructure improvements. We have a water tower in Lufkin that we're actually getting ready to completely replace, rebuild. We're going to take the old one down and put a new one up. We've got one that we're rehabbing as well. So it's important to keep those services operational and in good condition. So that's another thing we've spent money on caring for as well.
That's awesome. So you touched on it a little bit before, but so business development's been a big initiative for the city, bringing business in, economic development. First off, what can you tell us about that, about how that's gone the last year and so, but what can you tell us about future developments and future plans?
So just recapping the last 2 or 3 years, we had Twin Disc relocate here, their first expansion. I think it was a 100-year-old company out of Racine, Wisconsin that relocated here. We were able to help facilitate that move. They're a growing company, expanding their market area, so we were excited about that. That's out at our Lufkin Business Park out on 103. The most recent one to break ground is Gatafasse out of Lyon, France. Again, their first expansion of a facility in the United States, and they picked Lufkin, Texas.
Isn't that great?
And it's research and development, it's science, it's high-paying jobs. The number of jobs is not real high because of the type of work, but we were excited about that. And that construction's going on right now. You've heard numbers between $30 and $50 million investment in their facility out there. We've had others that we are in process of offering economic incentive packages. And to touch on that a little bit, most people don't realize the city is not giving away anything. It takes that business investing capital and employees before they receive any benefit. So the benefit only comes when their plans come to fruition and they develop a business in Lufkin. Others that we've had, let's see if Mark can help me remember.
So we got the abatement we approved the other day for, what was that, is it STI?
STI purchased an old
Gear facility,
gear repair facility, looking at employing 70, 80 welders there on Industrial Drive. that's a reinvestment in existing infrastructure, which we think is awesome as well.
It's great.
We've seen expansion in other businesses here locally. You know, Lockheed Martin now has 500 plus employees here in Lufkin. So they've become a big industry here in our community.
Well, and we just all had the opportunity last week to tour Atkinson Candy and to see that expansion, which was really great. In fact, we got to have the behind the scenes look at the taffy being pulled, all of that, which was
cool place.
A great experience.
Yeah, that's a 90-year-old company that has over 125 employees locally.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes because we always know Atkinson Candy companies here, we may take that for granted.
Right.
You know, they employ a lot of people, so that's has an impact on our community. We've also got Jefferson Enterprises that's redeveloping the old power plant. I guess we'd call that on the the West Loop area.
North
Loop. It's North Loop. Yep. So we're excited.
LP site.
Yeah, the old LP site there.
There's
so they've got some big things planned. We're excited to see what's going to happen there. So a lot of positive things happening.
And Lufkin continues to be a regional hub for medical care, for retail, and you see that where they're breaking ground on a new Freddy's over there by Chili's. There's others in the works that I don't think I'm able to share at this point, but
We've got Michael's coming, right?
we've got Michael's coming. We've got someone interested in the Kmart building.
Oh, fantastic.
Something there, which we've all wanted for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And some others. So it's good to see people continue to be interested in
That's right.
investing in our community.
Yeah.
What does that process look like? I know people kind of have this conception, maybe misconception, that when the city is trying to entice business to come here, that we just throw a bunch of money at them and we just like, oh, we'll give you all this money to come here. You'll never pay taxes if you come here. Or I think there may be a misconception about that. We've done a lot of economic development stories on this podcast. In fact, I don't even know if I've told Tara this, but when we look at the analytics of this podcast, most of the search that drives people to this podcast is people looking at economic development and business and things like that. So it's a big driver for us, but it's a question that I don't know we've really ever talked about here. What does that look like? So like when the city wants to bring somebody here, how does that process actually work?
So our economic development department with Bob Sanford is always in contact with the state. So there's a Texas Economic Development Corporation as well, and they funnel information out based on what they get. People interested in moving to Texas or looking for those locations within Texas, but also individual companies just put it out there that they're looking for communities, and it's very competitive. Communities can't just rest on their laurels and hope that a company can come in. You have to offer incentive packages, whether it be long-term purchase opportunities for land or facilities, or helping to facilitate the construction, the incentives for individual jobs, number of jobs created. So local government code regulates what you can do as a municipality, but the offer is there with whether it's land or financing opportunities or job incentives individually. They come from a myriad of avenues, but as Bob has said before, you have to be very competitive because you have those other cities that are just laying out cash to companies, and we don't do that. We give incentives and opportunities that don't come to fruition until they actually invest in capital and infrastructure within Lufkin.
Interesting. Good to know.
I was just going to add to that the tax abatements that we give. We sometimes catch a little flack on that because I don't think people fully understand what the process is. But if a company comes to Lufkin and buys an existing piece of property, they pay ad valorem taxes on that property. But if they add new value, that value can be abated over a certain period of years or a certain percentage each year. And I would say every city in the state offers tax abatements, so it's something that is really expected with a lot of these companies when they come here.
Yeah, that's great to say. So I know you've had over all these years really a vision for downtown.
Sure.
And you have helped kind of bring life back to downtown. We appreciate it so much. Tell us kind of what's happening right now with the Angelina Hotel. Like, all of those things. What's going on?
So the Angelina Hotel has sort of been an ongoing project. We initially developed the first floor into retail, and then we did the second floor. We converted that into loft apartments, and now we're completing floors 3, 4, and 5, which will also be loft apartments. And that's been really popular downtown. People enjoy living in a sort of a close-knit downtown area. So that's something they can do in Lufkin. I still consider us somewhat be a rural community, if you will. But we've got so many exciting things happening downtown. We've got a new restaurant, brewery getting ready to open up. We've had other businesses come into the downtown area, invest money. Lee Tran Services is one of them. So it's exciting to see others now investing in our downtown area. The county just bought a new building downtown, and they're getting ready to work on some of their facilities. So that'll be exciting to see what they do. But as far as the long-term strategy for downtown, we're continuing to look for ways to tie the convention center into the sort of the heart of downtown, if you will. We'd love to see at some point a hotel in the downtown area. I think that would be wonderful. And as we begin steps to improve our parks, we've got Cotton Square Park downtown, and that's part of the Lufkin Forward project. So we're going to revitalize that park and look at some of the murals and things like that. So we always want to improve the areas. We want to increase walkability in the downtown area and really all of our parks. But I think the future of downtown is bright as you see new businesses come in and prosper.
Well, we appreciate all that you've done to help that move along. Yeah. So you talked about other projects that you've got coming in 23. What are some other exciting things other than Moore Spring Park that you're excited about?
We just mentioned Lufkin Forward.
Yeah.
And we anticipate to get a final design package on that in the next month or two and be able to start construction.
Good.
On the Lufkin Forward project on First Street that goes in towards the Calder Square park there. And so we're excited about that. The scope of it has had to be modified a little bit due to inflation, but we feel like the impact is going to be significant. I think people will notice a difference.
And I say another concept or another idea that we're working towards are ways to improve our parks. A lot of our parks are very dated. I mean, we're talking about Kiwanis Park, Chambers Park, those type facilities or those type areas. So we're looking for ways to make those parks more usable for the residents today, if you will. 30, 40 years ago, people did different things in parks than maybe they do today. I mean, we didn't have cell phones. Kids weren't playing on them all the time. So we've got to keep the parks exciting. And we see a lot of people that just are out walking.
Yeah.
And so we want to enhance that. We've talked about bike trails or bike lanes, and I think we've done some of that. We're going to do some more. A lot of that's in our comprehensive plan long term. How can we create a park that promotes healthy living, healthy lifestyle? And we're also, in fact, we've got a new Parks and Rec director, Buddy Tim, who's got some exciting ideas.
Great.
Talk more about that at First Friday. But one of his ideas is converting some of the tennis courts that we don't use anymore into pickleball courts.
Great idea.
Because that's growing in popularity. So just things like that. We want to give our citizens what they want.
It's awesome. Fastest growing sport in the world right now, pickleball.
Yep.
That's crazy.
It is. It's nuts. We got to play one of our leadership Lufkin stops. We went by Parks and Rec, and they had the pickleball court set up inside, and we all got to play, and it was a blast. Like, if you haven't played pickleball yet, we really, really enjoyed getting to do that.
So we a couple more projects that are in the works. Part of our capital improvement plan that was approved in 2020 included a public safety training facility. We've had some ideas and worked towards some solutions to that. It was one of those that inflation got or impacted quite a bit. The city has applied for a TDM or Texas Department of Emergency Management grant for funding this public safety facility, and we have some very good plans. We have a concept. We anticipate that funding this spring telling us one way or the other. If we get that funding, we'll be able to put a training facility for first responders, for our police, for our fire, including training and driving, pursuit, interactions with the public. You've got a firing range for training. So we're looking forward to that. It's a unique opportunity to build something that'll be there for a long time. The the others was Mark mentioned the animal shelter.
Yeah.
Council allocated funds for a renovation of the animal shelter. So we've got some plans after this feasibility study is completed, looking at where we need to be, and we start looking at how we get there, and we've already got some money allocated for some renovations. And it's a common theme that things have just gotten older and older, and some of them have a different use now than what they did in the past. So we need to relook at them and repurpose or modify as needed. But those are two things that'll be coming up in 23 weeks, we anticipate.
That's great.
Very cool. Do either of you have a message kind of as we wrap up here that you'd like to share with the Lufkin community?
Or our friend in Ireland.
Or our friend in Ireland who still, this is another message. If you're listening, my email is blake@blakepollino.com. Please email me. Let me know where you're in Ireland. Why are you listening to this podcast? Are you
all the time.
Every episode? Like they listen to every episode. There's somebody in Ireland out because we get a geographical map of where all the downloads come from. So anyway, another shout out to our Ireland listener. But to the people of Lufkin, this is a cool platform to do. I thought about it. We're just coming off of the chamber banquet, and there were 600 plus people there. Each of these episodes is essentially a chamber banquet, getting to speak to that many people each episode, and more in a lot of cases. So is there any messages that you'd like to share about the city or to the people of Lufkin?
I think one thing that I try to tell people when they either call in or you meet them on the street is communication tends to be the thing that helps all situations. If you have an issue, if you have a concern, if you see something that is a concern, communicate. Call us, let us know. There's so many services that the city provides, so many things that we do, and we need our community to communicate with us to let us know whether it's their priorities or their concerns. That helps us be responsive to the public.
And we truly do want the very best for our citizens. A lot of times we're just not aware of certain situations that exist, or there's certain reasoning behind why things are happening. And if you'll contact us, we'll explain that, and it'll make better sense to you. I sometimes, in my position, get asked by people or somebody comes up and tells me about something going on, and they totally misunderstood what's happening. And once I clear it up, then it's like, oh, that makes sense. I'm glad you told me that. I'll say that, in fact, Kevin's always saying, just because we did it in the past doesn't mean we're going to do it in the future, or just because we haven't done it before doesn't mean it's something that we could do, And one example, that's the ice skating that we sponsored this past December. That was huge.
It's amazing.
People, we always hear from people that say, we wish there were more things to do in Lufkin. Well, we brought something to do in Lufkin, and I think it was very well received. So we want to look to do more things along those lines. In my role as mayor, it's very important to me. I tell people I govern for a majority of our community. So if our community wants it, then I want to find a way to bring it, and if enough people get behind it, then we're going to find a way to do it. So
I love that.
Well, we appreciate y'all for all that you do for the community, and we appreciate you coming on this podcast and always visiting with us. It's always great to be able to let people know, what's going on and what you're proud of, so that they can be proud of it and stand beside you. So, yeah, thank y'all very much.
Thank y'all so much for your time. We appreciate you having you on the podcast today, and thank you so much for listening again this week. If you'll do us a huge favor, if you'll share this podcast with somebody that may not even listen to podcasts, wherever you're listening, there's a share button, and you can send that to them as an email, text message. Just let somebody else know about the show, share it on social media, so that other people that might enjoy these type of stories can tune in with us every week. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.